Hello everybody, in this video we're going to look at how to automatically send a custom email to respondents of a Google Form quiz if they get a certain score. So there's a lot of steps to do to achieve this, but I'm going to break it down for you as best I can in this video. So let's get started. So we're going to start out here with a finished product here. This is just kind of a demo Google Form quiz here that I'm just going to answer real quick. And what we're going to see as soon as we submit it here is over in our Gmail, and this will be the same for any email that you use, we're going to get an email in just a second here that is a custom email that I sent with an attached file. In this case, I just have this little picture of Cleveland here. And that's our finished product. So let's learn how to make that happen. So here's our steps. We need to export the form to a Google Sheet. Then we need to create a new tab in the Google Sheet with 3 formulas. We'll break those down in a little bit. Then we need to go into the script editor in the Google Sheet, and we have to do a couple different like mini steps in the script editor. Don't worry, I'm going to give you the actual script for you can just copy and paste it and put the whole thing in there. There's only a couple little things that you would have to change. Then you can test the script, make sure it works, and you receive the emails after somebody completes the form, and then you can just repeat as many times as you want for however many quizzes. So here's our step 1. We're going to export the Google form to a Google Sheet. One thing to note, we have to do only 1 quiz per sheet. So if you have multiple quizzes that you want this whole process to work for, it has to be separate sheets. So we come over to the Responses tab in our finished Google Form quiz, and we click on the green button, and we'll say Create a New Sheet. And then, of course, it automatically gives us a Google Sheet. Pretty straightforward. This is a common thing for Google Forms and Google Sheets. Pretty straightforward, and it gives us all this stuff. Now, our second step here is to create a new tab in the sheet and add those 3 kind of funky formulas. So back in our spreadsheet, we're going to click on the plus button down in the bottom left, make up the new sheet. And then in the very first box, we're going to put a formula, and all formulas start with an equal sign. So we type equal sign, then we come back over to the first tab that says form responses, and we type the word index, I-N-D-E-X, then an open parenthesis, and we're going to click on the letter of the column B. So it just highlights all of column B. Then we're going to type a comma, and then we're going to type another formula called count A, open parenthesis, and then we're going to click on the column B as again. Then we're going to close the parenthesis, put a comma, type the number 1, and close parenthesis again, and hit enter. That's going to give us the lowest or the newest value in that column. Now in column B on the second sheet, we're going to do the same thing, equal sign, index, but this time we're going to want to get everything in column C. We want to get our scores. Exact same formula as before, except for we're just getting column C instead of D. So index, form responses C to C, count A, form responses C to C, 1, close out the formula. All right, those are 2 of the 3 formulas we need. I could have just clicked and dragged the first one over, but I just want to show you twice, just in case. Then in the third column here, we're going to do a different formula. This one we don't have to jump to the other tab for. We're just going to type equals and if, and open parenthesis. And we're going to say if the score is greater than or equal to whatever amount that you want to be passing. So in this case, I wanted to say 3. So I wanted students who get a score of 3 out of 4 to be considered passing, so they would get the passing email. All right. Then the second value is going to be what will be placed in the cell if it is true, if they do have a good enough score. If not, I'm just going to leave it blank. 2 quotes right next to each other means a blank. All right, so now let's go in and test it and make sure that the formulas in the spreadsheet are working correctly. So I'm just going to complete this form again real quick. Jump back over to the spreadsheet. It should auto-populate in just a second. There it goes. So it gave us all that information. And because I got a score of at least 3 out of 4, in this case I did get 3 out of 4, my email pops up in column C. All right, now I want to show you this as well. Check out what happens if I don't get a score of at least 3. So I'll purposely get these wrong, and then we'll submit. And notice there's nothing in the third column there because I only got a score of 1 out of 4. That's less than 3. So my email doesn't show up. Nothing shows up in that cell. Okay. Another thing to note, on the regular form responses tab in the sheet, don't even touch it. You don't have to touch anything on that sheet. All that stuff is going to automatically come in when people do the quiz. All right, on to step 3. We're going to open up the script editor and copy and paste the script I'm about to give you. So here is the script that we'll need to put into the script editor. Don't worry about copying and pasting it from here. I'm going to give you a short link right about now. So head over to this short link, bit.ly/autoformsemail, bit.ly/autoformsemail. That'll get you a link to this script here. And we can just copy it from here. Okay, now to get to a script editor, we have to come up to the Tools tab and then go into Script Editor. And this is just a JavaScript editor for Google Sheets where you can customize and basically tell it to do something specific. So we're going to erase the stuff that's in there and then just paste in what is in that little document I have the short link for. All right, we're going to probably want to rename the function up at the top. I'm just going to call this quiz4 email. The first code block here essentially is just grabbing the email address. Make sure you have the right location. In the second code block, this is where you are setting your message and your subject that's going to show up in the email. And I'm going to change this. You can change anything that you want that's in the single quotes. Anything that's in the kind of orangish brown color, you can change. So I'm going to change the subject and the message a little bit up. In the next code block here this is where we are going to be grabbing the attachment. So I called this one just badge, just because I was thinking of this as a makerspace earnings badge here. And what we have to do, this is a little tricky part, we have to find the file ID of the item that's in our Google Drive. Okay. Again, the only thing that you have to change is the stuff that's in this reddish, orangish, brown letters here. That's just a jumble of letters and numbers. The way to find those things is when we go back into our drive. Let me try to find a picture here that would be a good thing to send along. And that was a bad example. Let me try to find something of just kind of a normal picture of a little junk in here. Oh, here we go. I can use my Screencastify example. So if you have a picture file in your drive, or pretty much anything, when you go up to the share button in Drive, and we get the shareable link for that file, we're just going to copy that link, and we're going to bring it back over into the script editor. We're going to get rid of the jumble of letters and numbers that's already there, because that was a link to an ID for something else. And everything to the left of the ID, so including that D and the slash, all that stuff is going to be gone. So we're going to get rid of all this, all the way up to that last slash after the D, including the slash. We're going to get rid of that too. And then the same thing on the right side of the ID, including the slash. So we're just left with that kind of jumble of letters and numbers. That's the ID that goes right to that file. Okay. Now in the next line here, that is where we need to make sure we have the same type of file. All right. So make sure they match. In this case, the file type was a PNG. Make sure that they are the same file type. Okay. Then in the last code block here, this is where it's just telling Google essentially to send an email. Okay. And then we can just give it a name here. So I'll call it quiz4 email. We'll say okay. And now we're going to go ahead and save it. We'll save disk. And then we want to run it real quick and make sure it will work for us. And make sure in that second line here where it says sheet 2 and C1, make sure those correspond to the point of that email in C1 on that second sheet. Make sure it matches. So if you rename that second tab to something else, that name has to match. All right, so let's go ahead and click that little play button up on the top. That's going to run the script for us. And this is one way that we can test it. So it's going to have to accept some permissions here. So let's just say allow on all this stuff. And if all works correctly, it's going to shoot me an email in just a second here. So here we are in my email. I just got this email when I clicked run. It took a few seconds, but it came up in my email. So I have the message and the attachment. All right. Now the next thing we have to do is set up what's called a trigger, which will make this script run at a certain time or when something happens. So we come up to the Edit tab and choose this project's triggers. Then we'll go down to the bottom right and say Add Trigger. The only thing you should have to change is the very last box at the bottom. Change it to On Form Submit. So it should have the name of your function. In this case, I called it Quiz for Email. It should say Head, From Spreadsheet, and On Form Submit. We'll say Save. And this again, we'll have to do some allowing here. Then it will finish loading, and it is saved. So what this means is when somebody completes the form, it's going to trigger the function, this whole script to run, and it is going to send that email out. So let's give it a test, a full done test here. So I'm going to jump over to another account here, and I'm going to go in and do the little quiz again. And remember, I have it set up so if a student gets at least 3 out of 4 correct, they'll receive an email. And I'll say submit, and then we'll jump over to our email here, and this should pop up in just a second. There it is. Give it a click. There's my welcome, there's my congratulations message and the picture. All right, so hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.